Hey everybody, Derek here. I'm here to bring another video for Z Nation. Just got done watching the 6th episode, Resurrection Z. Definitely was a very intense, shocking episode, and I felt like I should do a review on it just like I've always done and just express my feelings on it and just some things for the future. So, just in case you guys have not caught the episode yet, this will completely spoil everything, and I don't want to spoil you if you have not watched it yet. So, just a final warning, there will be spoilers. Okay. Well, the first thing I'm just going to say right off the bat is that this episode does have a death. A very major one, too. They had said last week in the premiere that they were going to kill off a character, and I did a character predictions video about it, and I was wrong. I mean, that's the point of a predictions video, is you're not always going to be right, and I mean, that's just the way it goes. But Garnet died. And part of me really didn't see it coming. I mean, Garnet, ever since Hammond died in the premiere, has been the leader. He's been leading the group along the way. He's been making decisions. And, they definitely had a lot of storylines building up with him. I mean, he was in a relationship with Roberta, and they were definitely growing closer together. In this episode, they actually do make love at the compound, and I think that it definitely demonstrated the connection that those two had. And I think that Garnet definitely had a good arc. I mean, he definitely was a very good character. I liked him. I thought he was a very good leader. And the way that he went out just demonstrates his strength as a character. He's definitely a very strong individual, and he's definitely one who would sacrifice his life to save other people. And that's exactly what he did in this episode. He threw himself in the path of a bullet in order to save Murphy. And I think that that definitely is something that's going to continue to keep the group going, because they're not going to dishonor Garnet. They're not going to do that at all. They loved Garnet. He was a great leader. And I definitely think that they will, honor him and continue on in the mission. I'm going to give a little more about my reactions on that later in the video, but I want to talk now more about the plot line. And I think the plot line was definitely very great. You had two different groups being featured in this. One was a religious cult that was run by this guy named Jacob, and he basically thinks that the zombie apocalypse is the resurrection of the dead that the Bible talks about, which I've actually heard a reference to in many other media. I mean, the remake of Dawn of the Dead talks about how the dead will walk the earth. Like Ken Foree's on the TV, and he's talking about how if there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth, and he talks a little bit more about what exactly does it mean that the dead will walk the earth. Whether that's actually in the Bible or what the translation of that is, I don't know. I just know that that's something that's been brought up about zombie apocalypses before, and that's basically what Jacob believes. And he ends up having three of his followers go back to the compound and basically kill themselves. There's no weapons allowed in the compound. The compound is actually a very good idea, and what they do is that there's a big fortification. And what ends up happening is they don't allow weapons inside of the compound, which is a very smart idea, especially for the Z Nation world. See, one of the differences you find with Z Nation versus Walking Dead or other zombie medias, it just depends on which one you're watching, is when somebody dies, they turn into a zombie pretty quick like that. I mean, sometimes in The Walking Dead, it takes several hours in order for it to happen. I've seen other zombie movies where it takes a little bit of time for the person after they die to regenerate. But no, like in Z Nation, it can happen within a matter of seconds. So you really don't have a lot of time to, bash the brain in. And basically, this is what these people did, was they were working for Jacob. They came back under the impression that they were coming back to the group, but in all honesty, they were carrying out his mission. And they basically had these crosses that had little knife blades in them, and they slit their throats and came back as zombies. And because of the fact that there's no weapons in the compound, that people don't really have much to defend themselves with. I mean, Mac was defending, himself with a fork. Mac and Addie were basically just stabbing them with a fork and a spoon, and it took forever to kill just one. I mean, and because of the fact that these are fresher zombies, they're quick. They're bouncing off everything. They're running. I mean, this is definitely dangerous. And, I definitely think that, it was definitely a bad situation for the group. But Jacob ends up coming back in to the compound, basically takes it over in the end because everybody else dies from being zombies, and he actually keeps the zombies because he thinks of them as like the flock. He thinks of it as a way of growing his congregation, and basically people, I guess, choose. At least that's what he was kind of saying, was you either join the flock as a zombie and you're one of the resurrected Z's, resurrected dead, or you serve him in your living form. And he was on the verge of killing Garnett, and Murphy actually steps up and saves him for the time being. Murphy definitely had a very good role in this episode. I mean, it's very clear, based off of my video before. I mean, whether he's actually holding the cure or not, I mean, we still don't know, but his body's definitely having a very negative reaction to everything that's going on. I mean, he really looked rough in this episode. He had like bald patches all over his head I mean, he lost his hair, but he has like bald patches. His teeth are, getting even darker. His skin is basically becoming like gray, kind of like the zombies. And the bites, like he lifts up his shirt, you see like the bites are like opening up, and there's like even a darker residue around them. So I mean, he's starting to look more and more like a zombie. And they actually, in this episode, which I think we kind of established before with the Z NATO episode, the zombies won't eat him. The zombies basically, he basically demonstrates, and he sticks his fingers inside the zombie's mouth and it doesn't bite. And I think that, it's definitely showing that he is, in essence, the living dead. But I mean, he basically is not appealing to the zombies. They won't eat him because they don't like, it's pretty much like dead flesh. But he's still living in the sense that, if he gets shot, he's probably going to die. Well, I mean, they haven't established that yet, but it's pretty, I think that there's definitely a fine line between, you don't want to shoot Murphy in the heart, because there's still a part of him that lives, and I don't think that he could just take a gunshot like a zombie could and not die, unless it was in the head. But basically, Murphy's able to distract everybody, and, he basically tells the guy that he's the new Messiah, that he got bit 8 times, and Jacob is testing and testing and testing him. And then he says, oh, okay, I'm going to shoot you in the heart. And if, you don't die, then yeah, sure, you're the Messiah. And at that point, Garnett gets up and throws himself in the path of the bullet and gets shot in the chest and dies. Definitely devastating for Roberta. The group leaves because there's just zombies coming everywhere. And, Jacob's flock of people is basically shooting and everything. It's just a dangerous situation. So they get the heck out of there. And they pull away, and Roberta grabs the rifle and gives Garnett mercy. Basically, Garnett does come back as a zombie, which is not surprising, because no matter how you die, you come back as a zombie. And she shoots him in the head as a zombie. Then she turns the gun on Jacob and shoots him in the stomach, and Jacob just gets completely eaten. I mean, it's definitely a great scene for, justice. You're like, yeah, suck it, But I definitely think it was a very good episode. I mean, they really did a great job of keeping the suspense. It definitely was one of the most suspenseful episodes of all. You were constantly on the edge of your seat, especially knowing that somebody was going to die, and then it turned out to be Garnett. I think Tom Everett Scott is a great actor, and it's definitely sad to see him go. Basically Garnett was the leader, and that's the thing about Z Nation that is amazing, is that they've killed 2 leaders now. You had Hammond, who was establishing himself as a leader, and now he gets killed in the premiere, and now you have Garnett getting killed off, and he was the new leader of the group. And I think that in some ways, I think they did it in order to shock the audience, because I mean, you wouldn't expect that to happen, really, from the audience. I mean, yeah, they killed off Hammond, and it's like, okay, it's the first episode, and they kind of want to, shock you. But now knowing that they'll do that, at this point, you don't know who's safe and who's not. I mean, Z Nation has established that they're not afraid to do anything that they want. And if they're going to kill off Garnett, they're going to kill off Garnett if they think it's best for the storyline. Walking Dead, you don't have that. Pretty much, this is the equivalent of if Walking Dead would kill off Rick and Daryl in season 5, which is not going to happen, but that's pretty much what the equivalent is of what they did. in Z Nation. They pretty much shocked us by killing two of the, lead popular characters. And I don't know how it will affect the show. Because, I mean, one of the things that you also see about Z Nation is there's so many great characters, and they all have a very essential part of the storyline, and they're all very much focused on. I mean, I love Doc for his humor. I love Addie for, her artistic spirit, and just basically like, the way that she interacts with Mac. And also, you have this mystery about what exactly happens to her, because again, in this episode, all these zombies are going around. She goes into like this trance state. So it's a little interesting to figure out that. You have Warren, who's definitely a great. I mean, I think at this point she's pretty much going to be the new leader, and I think it'll be very interesting to see her grow. And then, of course, you have Doc being funny. You have Murphy, who is basically really stepping up. I mean, he's the most mysterious guy of all, and I really thought he was the star of the episode. I mean, just Keith Allen's acting was absolutely spot on, absolutely great. I was amazed. And, I think that they're going to explore him a little more. And then 10K and Cassandra, they probably have a little thing going there, but they're both very tough characters. And 10K is definitely like that, yeah, let's see him kill zombies, And I think that they're all essential to the plot. And, I think that there is a good chance that even though Garnett is gone, I think that they can still keep the show interesting. I mean, every one of them definitely brings something to the table, so I think that they will be able to transition from Garnett's death, but we'll just have to wait and see, because it's always hard to lose a character in a show, especially one that's so central to the plot. And I definitely think that, they definitely shocked me. I think they shocked anybody else who was watching it. And I think that they probably, they keep increasing the interest. Because, I mean, the fact that they're not afraid to kill characters is basically saying that, it carries the shock value and the more realistic tone to the zombie apocalypse. I mean, just because I'm a great leader and a great guy doesn't mean that I'm going to survive. It's not like Walking Dead where, Glenn miraculously survives, not getting his head bashed in just because of great storylines. In real life, Glenn's dead. I'm sorry. And you see a lot of other things with just TV and movies in general where what exactly is going to happen probably will not actually really happen in real life. I mean, you just don't get that many miracles. Miracles happen, but it's just not as abundant as what happens on TV. But I think that Z Nation is definitely taken a step above that, and they really haven't done anything at this point that I think is too ridiculous, in my opinion. I'm definitely going to have more thoughts about that in future videos. Stay tuned for a couple of other things. I have another video coming out. I had a request to do a comparison and contrast between Walking Dead and Z Nation. And I think that now that we are 6 episodes in, we're about halfway through the first season of Z Nation, I definitely think that there is enough for me to make a video on that and basically give my thoughts. And I also am just very happy to see, that Z Nation really is stepping up from the first episode, and I think they're getting better. I'm going to continue to watch it, and I hope that other people do as well. And I'm also going to do another video. Another thought that I was having was about how long Z Nation can last. So I'm just basically going to give my thoughts on that as well. So, hey, thanks everybody for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. Feel free to subscribe, and you can stay caught up on all the Z Nation news. Anything that I get a hold of, I'll definitely be sharing. And again, if you have any videos that you want me to make, don't be afraid to leave them in the comments or message me. I'm always willing to accept any kind of suggestions. So, thanks guys. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.